Friday. It's Dr. Bridget Young from babyformulaexpert.com here to talk about infant feeding on a Friday. I have not done this in like 3 weeks, so I'm actually feeling pretty good. It's been a really long week. I'm super tired and I'm very happy to be home with all the boys. There's chaos on the ground beneath me. We're going to do this anyway. I have my drink. The boys have their juice. We are ready. For those of you who don't know who I am Bridget Young. I'm a doctor of perinatal nutrition and a certified lactation counselor and founder of babyformulaexpert.com. And today we are going to be talking about soy formula. Soy, there's not as many options for soy formula. So what I would like to do today are go over some of the reasons that you might consider soy formula. Then I'll compare the differences. Excuse me. I'll compare the differences between the brand options that you have on the market, particularly paying attention to why you may choose one brand versus another depending on your individual baby's problems, basically like whatever's driving you to want to experiment with soy. So let's get started. I am going to be really honest. I rarely recommend soy. So there's not a distinct set of symptoms where I would say soy formula might really help. So the reasons that you may choose soy, and this is coming straight from the American Academy of Pediatrics, are one, if your family is vegan and you're very passionate about that and you would like your baby to be on a vegan diet and you are unable to, or don't want to breastfeed, then use soy. Absolutely. Your baby is part of your family and your morals and passions are your baby's. So that is one of the main reasons. The other is in cases of... You found a seed, honey? Oh, you're telling Daddy? I'm sorry. Congenital galactosemia, which means babies who are genetically incapable of digesting lactose. This is very rare. It's one of the things they test for in the hospital before you go home with your baby, so you would know. And then the reason soy is the best option for those babies are there is absolutely no lactose in soy, even contaminant amounts. A lot of dairy-based formulas that don't use lactose still aren't considered lactose-free because you can have little contaminant amounts of lactose that kind of come in with the cow's milk protein because obviously cow's milk has lactose in it. So if your baby has a genetic condition where they truly can't have any lactose in their diet, soy is the best option. So those are the two big reasons medically where you would just start off with soy. A lot of parents end up using soy because the baby's having some kind of digestive issue and they're hoping that soy will help. It's like I said, it's really hard for me to just give you a set of symptoms where I say soy might help. It's a totally different protein. It comes with all different kind of pros and cons. The reasons when soy may be helpful are kind of the reasons when goat's milk might be helpful. When the baby's having some kind of sensitivity to cow's milk-based proteins that likely has some kind of immune component, meaning something in their immune system is reacting to something in cow's milk proteins. And so giving the baby a totally different protein source like soy might help. It's not 100% because a lot of babies who are allergic to dairy are also allergic to soy. In fact, if your baby is diagnosed with a cow's milk allergy, the doctor will not recommend soy, just like they would not recommend goat. So the reasons that, or the scenarios in which soy help is this fuzzy gray. It's not an allergy. It's probably a sensitivity. We're not 100% sure what's wrong. So I know that's not exactly helpful. But from there, so kind of keeping that in mind, I'm going to go through the different options you have for soy formula in the U.S., which are 4 brands. And if you're using soy, I would choose these brands differently depending on symptoms your baby might be having. So I'm hoping that will be the most helpful since the information I gave you probably wasn't that helpful. So let's have a sip of wine. We'll get started. We have Similac as the first one right here. So in the U.S., your 4 main options for soy formula are your 3 biggies: Similac, Enfamil, Gerber, and then Earth's Best also has a soy formula. There may be other really smaller brands I'm missing or generics, but these are the 4 big ones. So I'm just going to start in no particular order. We're going to start with Similac. So Similac soy, all these formulas, the protein source is soy. I'm not going to really dwell there. So what makes Similac different is the same thing that makes Similac formulas different from most other formulas, and that is the fat blend. Similac does not use palm oil in any of their formulas. Palm oil. I found a cherry. You found it? Most babies digest palm oil just fine. It's like ain't no thing. It's not anything to worry about. Palm oil can cause reduced calcium absorption, reduced fat absorption, which formulas account for, but it can cause hardening of the stool. This doesn't bother the vast majority of babies, but it does bother some babies. So if you are considering soy because your baby is having chronic constipation or stool frequency issues, then maybe Similac would be the best soy to start with because it doesn't use palm oil, whereas palm oil is used in all the other soy options. So again, if constipation is an issue, then Similac might be a good place to start if you're considering soy. The other thing that is a differentiator between brands is, so that we just talked about the fat blend, that's where palm oil comes in. Of course, the carbohydrate blend, because you have protein, fat, carbohydrate. Those are the three that make up your calories. So all soy formulas in the US are 100% lactose free. Lactose is a carbohydrate, so they have to get the carbohydrate somewhere else. Similac uses corn syrup solids and sucrose, which is table sugar. It is 80% corn syrup solids, 20% sucrose. Sucrose is a disaccharide, meaning just two molecules stuck together, a di for two. One is glucose, one is fructose. So if the formula is 20% sucrose, that means it's going to digest quickly to be roughly 10% fructose. If that just went over your head, don't worry about it. If you went to school for nutrition, you know that 10% fructose diet for carbohydrate is pretty high. Higher than I would like to see, definitely for babies. Now, if you are feeding Similac soy and your baby is thriving, don't pay attention to me. You're doing a wonderful job. It's great. If you are deciding between a soy brand, it's just something for you to consider. So Similac has a pretty high percentage of sucrose, which means a pretty high percentage of fructose. I consider that kind of a con, but it doesn't have palm oil. I consider that a pro. So depending on where your baby falls on the constipation scale, one of those factors may be more important to you than the other. And so that's what I want you to think about. So that's Similac. Punchline: soy protein, no palm oil in the fat, check my notes, 20% of the carbohydrate coming from sucrose. The rest is corn syrup solids, which digests to be all glucose. There's soy, or there's Similac soy. Well, please don't make a mess. Okay, so let's hit Enfamil. Working myself up into a sweat here. Let's do Enfamil next. So Enfamil is Pro-Sobi is the name of it, but that's their soy. It is very similar in that it's just soy protein is the protein. Their carbohydrate is 100% corn syrup solids, so no sucrose. And their fat blend does use palm oil. So if you had like no palm oil, but lots of fructose for Similac, and familiar, kind of the other way around. It does have palm oil, but no sucrose. So if your baby is not suffering from any kind of constipation issues and you're choosing between those two, I'd probably push you more towards the Enfamil than the Similac. Other than that, they're relatively similar. There's a few tiny differences, like Similac has a prebiotic, Enfamil does not. Similac formulas have the lutein and lycopene, which is nice, but it's not something that I would passionately argue that should make your decision. I think the major macronutrient should more make your decision. So that's Enfamil, to summarize. Soy protein, palm oil in the fat blend, corn syrup solids is the carbohydrate, no sucrose. Let's do Gerber next, because Gerber's is actually pretty different. The fat blend in Gerber is pretty much the same as Enfamil, so it does have palm oil. The sugar blend is very similar to Similac. So it's roughly 80% maltodextrin, which is technically not corn syrup solids, but will digest similarly. It's glucose-based. I mean, I could explain the difference to you. It's very nerdy, and I don't think it's that particularly relevant. So 80% maltodextrin, which is similar to corn syrup solids, and 20% sucrose. So it does have that kind of high component of sucrose. The big difference is that Gerber's soy formula is a partially hydrolyzed protein. So they still start with soy proteins, which molecularly are really big, similar to the size of cow's milk proteins, which are much bigger than breast milk proteins. And they hydrolyze them, which is a fancy scientific word for chopping them up into smaller pieces, because we can't just say that. We have to keep parents confused and feel elitist. So Gerber's soy formula is still soy-based, but the proteins are much smaller in size. I personally think that this is very helpful if you have a newborn baby or baby who's a freshling, like in the first 3 months, who may be still working up their capacity to digest bigger proteins, or if you've had a baby who's had a lot of digestive issues, maybe they've come off a recent gastrointestinal or tummy virus, or something that makes you think that their intestines may be functioning a little suboptimally. Maybe they're healing, maybe they had some inflammation. These are factors that might allow them to thrive a little bit better on a smaller protein, because it's going to take less enzymatic action to chop up smaller proteins into pieces that can be absorbed. It's not a perfect recipe for everybody. It's not like this, everybody must be on hydrolyzed proteins, but it's something to consider. So if those factors sound like your baby, newborn baby, or a baby that's recovering from something, or baby that is a little bit digestively compromised, then maybe Gerber would be a really good place to start, because that's a really big difference to have these proteins chopped up a little smaller. And you can hear Vaughn playing with a bucket of water in the corner. That's going to be a disaster. And the only thing I want to say that I think is a huge bummer is Gerber recently changed the recipe in their major formulas to switch out all the prebiotics to be human milk oligosaccharides, and they did not do it for the soy formula, which is just annoying. So no prebiotic, no human milk oligosaccharide, no probiotic in the soy formula. It's relatively stripped down in that capacity. Lastly is Earth's Best. So this is obviously a smaller brand, but they are one of the only brands that is not with the major 3 that makes a soy formula. Despite Earth's Best mostly being an organic company, their soy formula is not organic, which is a huge bummer. It is, however, non-GMO. This is actually a really big point. So Earth's Best and Gerber offer non-GMO soy formulas. Similac and Enfamil don't offer a non-GMO version. Yeah, bring me over. Where's your cup? And I'll give you more special drink. Oh, did you put it in the bucket? Oh, we'll have to get a new cup. Okay, can you give me a second? I'm almost done. You want to say hi? Hi. Sorry. So Earth's Best is non-GMO. If possible, I would prefer you to try to find a non-GMO soy formula, because most of the soy in this country, in the U.S., is very heavily genetically modified. There's no research to suggest that that affects babies. In my personal experience, I have had babies, really sensitive babies, be reactive to genetically modified ingredients. But again, I want to emphasize that's personal experience and opinion. It's not research based. But that being said, so if you can get it non-GMO, great. So if you want non-GMO, your options are Gerber or Earth's Best. And Earth's Best is basically, should we look at our notes? Earth's Best basically is a non-GMO version of Enfamil. So it looks really similar to Enfamil. No sucrose, so no fructose. The carbohydrate is just from corn syrup solids. The soy is full size, and it does have that palm oil blend. So honestly, if you're choosing between Enfamil and Earth's Best, I'd go Earth's Best because they're almost identical. Yep, it's no, that's my wine. Except the Earth's Best. Oh, I hope so. That would be a special surprise. Except the Earth's Best is non-GMO. Mm-hmm. So, yeah. So I'm going to try to do a 10-second summary, and hopefully this is really helpful. Okay. Oh, I'm gonna finish talking to my friends, and then I'll drink it all. Well, we can't see them, but they're there. You can say hi. Okay, so in summary, if you are considering soy, the major differences to consider relative to your individual baby is that Similac does not use any palm oil. This is relevant for babies who are having constipation issues or stooling frequency, pain with stooling issues. That may help. However, Similac does use sucrose in their formula, which in general I'm not a huge fan of. Enfamil is the other way around. They do use palm oil, but they don't use sucrose. If you're considering Enfamil, I would recommend considering Earth's Best because basically it's a non-GMO version of Enfamil. Again, there's other really minor differences, but if you're choosing between one versus the other, you're not already using one. I don't think those minor differences are enough to really affect your baby's response. And lastly, Gerber's is quite different. It does use sucrose in the carbohydrate. It does use palm oil in the fat blend. However, the protein is hydrolyzed, meaning broken down into a smaller size, which may be particularly helpful for newborn infants or infants who I would say are digestively compromised, meaning they've been suffering with digestive issues for a while, they're coming off of an illness or something that would have likely to have caused inflammation in their intestines. We're gonna wrap this up because Vaughn would like another drink. And he threw his cup into the bucket of water, so I gotta get on that. If you are using a soy formula that is working for your family, drop it in the comments. I would love to hear it. If there's a brand that I'm not familiar with, I would love to hear that too. And if there's a question I can answer, let me know and give me 3 days to get back to you because it takes me that long. And I will be back next week to talk about something else I haven't decided, but I've got a bunch of topics that I just haven't gotten to in a while. So we'll be having happy hour more frequently. Have a wonderful weekend, everybody, and I'll talk to you later. Bye.